Okay, so hi and happy new year to everyone. And I'm super excited because there's some new people here that don't know each other. And Ani and Carol were in the Mighty Mastermind that I led a year ago in January of 2021 when I kicked off our first official Mighty Mastermind. And it was a 90-day program where we go through setting a goal for our community focus. So everybody in the mastermind was on the Mighty Networks, planning on launching a Mighty Network of some sort, either a course or a membership. And so we guided them through each week with some breakout sessions. We had some interactive workshops. And at the end, we had this thing called a growth seat. It was developed from like the hot seat, if you've ever been in business and heard about a hot seat, where you as the person who wants some feedback gets to share or present something and then ask for feedback. And so that's kind of what we're doing today with me. I'm going to be the example of the growth seat for today. This is a wrap up of the Mighty Mastermind, and I've invited the entire Find Calm Here community to this event and to the other one that's going to happen in with Kalisa's event that's going to happen in a few weeks with her growth seat, because she's been working with the new group, the Mighty Mastermind, that started back in October. So the Mighty Mastermind, the fall session, we started in October, at the end of October, starting into November. And so we are actually going through that process with the people inside the Mighty Mastermind fall session. They've already set some goals. They've had some ideas around where they want to go. And then the growth seat that we're on today for me is for you all to give me feedback about some of the vision and the plans that I have for the next 90 days of Find Calm Here for community. Now, what was I going to say? I just lost my
your invitation.
Carol's got somebody in the background over there. I'm going to mute Carol for a second. So before we start with the mastermind, the Mighty Mastermind, what we typically do is share a win, because I love to start something with celebrations. And so before I dive into like all of the stuff that I'm going to share with you, I want to have each person that's here do a little mini intro of just who you are, what your community is about. Like give me if you have your what's it called? I'm blanking on words today, but your membership statement.
Like big purpose?
Big purpose. Thank you. I just worked with a client for an hour and a half, and my brain's kind of like reacclimating to things. Okay. Big purpose. So share with me your big purpose and something that you're like wanting to celebrate today. And I'm going to kick it off. And Ani, I'll start with you, because Ani doesn't actually have a community on Mighty Network, but she's doing some course building. So we'll start with you, Ani.
Okay, hey everyone. Nice seeing you, the ones I know, and pleasure meeting all the new faces. I'm Ani Papazian. I'm in LA, and my big purpose is I help men and women living in pain to overcome their pain through self-help techniques, through education, nutrition, so they can make informed decisions based on education. And my win is I'm just overcoming over COVID. So I'm excited that I got it and I'm done with it. And actually, I've decided throughout this last few months that I've decided, I think besides helping men and women, I'm also going to concentrate on reaching out to massage therapists and creating courses for massage therapists, which I think it will be bigger reach for me, that I can help more people through them to learn advanced pain relief techniques, then also separate them as practitioners so they can stand out more and they can charge more for their services. So they don't have to work 8-9 hours and they can make more money. And I think that's it. I'm happy to be here.
And then you're going to pick the next person, and then we'll just go in that sync.
Well, since Christy's next to me, go for it.
And congratulations.
All right. Yeah, no, that sounds really cool. My name is Christy Sullivan, and I just started a community earlier in the year, earlier last year, around beginning of July. And I help corporate executives figure out how they can travel and work remotely for extended periods of time. So kind of bringing that type of person together to travel, since everybody's working from home now, and why not work from somewhere amazing, right? So that's kind of what I've been doing. And the win for me, I guess, would be that I started a travel blog because I'm a full-time traveler, and I have kind of I think I have a game plan now of how to move forward. So for me, that's like a big win. So I'm feeling good about that. Thanks to Deb a lot. So I appreciate that. And I'm glad to be here. So thank you. And Kalissa is below me, and she looks like she's in an exotic location. So I'll let her go next.
Hi, I'm Kalisa. I'm currently in Orlando, Florida, on vacation, but working a little bit, which is awesome. I do not have a community, but I did start my virtual assistant journey last year for the reason that I could work wherever I wanted. And I think my biggest win was actually getting to meet Deb last week because she came down to Florida, and it's been really awesome. And I now get to call myself the executive assistant and the podcast producer for FindCom here. So that's been awesome. And I will go ahead and choose Missy's right below me.
Thank you. My name's Missy Steffens. I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I am the community manager for a community called Own Your Brilliance, which is the community of a woman named Lisa Pepper-Seckin, and she is an executive therapeutic coach that works primarily with leaders and executives in companies. Her focus, she works with both men and women. This community is specifically focused on women. And she got it up and running last summer, but didn't really do a whole lot with it. So I offered to help her. And so, I skipped our win. So I would say our community win is there were about 3 people in the community until a few weeks ago. And then I came on board and said, let's see what we can make happen with this. And now we're up to 15 people, which still is tiny, but that was big progress over the holidays, I felt like. So right now she does offer, she offers some courses where we've got it split into courses. So a weekly course that people are in, and that's a group of about 15 women who attend weekly to work on their goals, both personal and professional. And then she offers standalone courses too. So we've set those up through there. We've now got people into them. We're rolling. Our next phase is to convert over some of her other groups and areas. So we're just in the baby beginning stages, but we're really excited. And she's based in California. So
She sounds Armenian. She has to be.
I don't think she is. I think I'm not sure what she is. But
No, but Lisa's an amazing person. She's a client of mine that we worked extensively basically, I think in the spring or summer of 2021. Yeah. And now we're like flipping back around and reconnected after she had some time, and then brought on Missy to help her. So I'm glad to have Missy in combination with Lisa in the FindCom here community. Missy, if you'll pick another person, we'll keep going around so we can keep.
Great. Carol.
Let me unmute myself. Sorry about that. Sorry about the noise, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet you. Well, I started a community actually simultaneously with launching a course back in the fall of 2020. Yeah, 2020. And the community was all about helping others rediscover their true spiritual nature so they can lead an intuitive, heart-centered life. And it was for those who are really committed to self-transformation through expanded consciousness, awareness, and awakening. And the course that I launched was the Heart Resonance Primer, which was the first in a series of 3 courses that we had launched to help initially kickstart one to cultivate behaviors and habits that will lead to a more balanced life in all aspects of your life. And that I started reevaluating things after the launch of that course. It was very successful, and I built the community up to about, I guess, 45 people. And I did my growth seat last year. I think it was March, February, March. I can't remember exactly. But then I started reevaluating. I had so many things that I was doing. I have had a podcast for 3 years, the Hearts Rise Up podcast. And I've also been producing a number of guided meditations. And the podcast was named the Top Wisdom Podcast last January. So it's been a year running by FeedSpot. And so I've gotten some pretty good momentum with the podcast, and with all the things that I was involved in, I had to really kind of reevaluate whether I wanted to continue to build a community. And what I ended up doing was putting the community on hold this past September. And I'm still kind of evaluating that right now, but really moving more in the direction of building the podcast and monetizing the podcast and building out the guided meditations. And I'm collaborating with a few other people on a couple of other projects right now. So right now I've just kept the community on hold, but I have been a part of this community, Deb's community, for some time now, and just want to continue to be involved to help support everyone who is building a community, because I feel that right now community is very, very important in the world that we're living in today. And we need to be here to support one another. And so that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Carol. Yeah, Carol is a wise, wonderful person. So if you have questions, she's already been through the Mighty Network. She's already done it, been there, done it. And she's a good person in the community because she gives really great feedback and positive, lovely, kind words. She's an
so kind.
Amazing human being, and it wouldn't have been, this would not have all been, Carol's one of the founding members of Find Calm here. She's the original, and it wouldn't have been possible without her. So I want to make that shout out to you, Carol.
Thank you. Thank you.
We got Kathy and Mary left. Which one wants to go?
Okay. That's cool. So my community is called LS Warriors, and LS stands for lichen sclerosis. My community is for women who are suffering mentally and physically from the skin condition called lichen sclerosis. And I've basically given the education, the tools, and we provide the support for the women to go from diagnosis to overcoming this disease and learning how to manage it and to get back to the life that they want to live. And so my big win is I started a nonprofit for this condition we incorporated in August. And just on the 17th, we have our first partnership with an organization called Sweet Spot Labs. And so Monday we're doing a press junket, and then we have an event on the 17th, and they're donating all of their revenue, all their online revenue from the 17th, which is World Lichen Sclerosis Day, to the nonprofit. So that's nice. Thank you. And I guess Mary, you're next.
Yay. Hello, everyone. I'm sorry I missed the earlier. I had just finished up my community First Friday call, and I broke my fast and needed coffee. And a bike. So I am Mary Elizabeth Murphy, and my community is Star Resources Community, which is named after my company, which stands for Star Strategic Teams Achieving Results. And my big purpose is that we're creating a community of lifelong learners. My background is in nonprofit, government, team, corporate, small business, consulting, team and leadership development. So we're transferring that into our community, as well as for folks who maybe aren't currently corporately employed, but they have projects and things that they want to accomplish. So I wrote a book called Reset Your Buttons. And our big win last year was we launched our 90-day reset sprint based on my Reset Your Buttons model. Thanks, Deb. And everybody's like coming up back. We've got like 90% retention of our sprinters, and they love it. So, and my other big win was meeting Deb and getting support and transferring from free to paid, and her constant support of, you can do this. So yeah, thank you.
Yay! Yes, and I'm so thankful I met you. Mary and I have partnered up. She's been my business coach for the last 4 months, and it has literally transformed my business. And so it actually is a consulting business, a profitable one. And so I will give a shout out to Mary for her support over the last quarter in helping me to be able to keep doing what we're doing today. So I'm excited. So thank you. And thank you everybody for making your time to be here and show up and just participate, because this is what we're going to talk about today. Is you are all inside the Find Calm Here community, and today I get to tell you what I'm excited about going into 2022 and how you can be a part of that. So I want to just preface it by saying this is all about you guys. Stop me at any moment, ask a question, post something in the chat. Just let me know. We're gonna just keep it free flowing. I've got about a 25, 30 minute PDF presentation that I'll post in our, when I have the recording, I'll post up later, that I'm going to go through. And then we're just going to do some questions and feedback. So just feel free to be blunt, honest, whatever you feel like is coming to you, the first thought, just like put it in the chat or share it. And I'm happy to answer or answer any questions, and I won't be offended. At least I'll try not to be hurt. So everybody seeing my screen? Just give me a thumbs up if everybody's seeing my screen. Yep, good. Okay. So we talked a little bit about the growth seat, and I did create a structure which is in the event for all of the people that do growth seats to kind of go through. And so we're going to go through that flow in this presentation today. So step one is just sharing a little bit of my journey with you. We talked a little bit about it when I did some introductions and talked to brought some people to light. But a year ago, we did the first official Mighty Mastermind. And at that time, we developed this growth seat idea. And when I had my growth seat a year ago, I had a different plan than I have today. And so I want to just go and share with you what my plan was in a year ago in March when we did the mastermind. And then we'll go forward to what I feel like is going to be the next transition. Find Calm Here started as a community building resource for my clients and customers and potential people to come in and discover a little bit more of me at a lower price point than maybe some of my consulting services. And so that's what the foundation of launching the Find Calm Here community as a community for community builders is, to not only bring people together, but also give them a higher level of support for Mighty Network hosts who are maybe struggling around tech support. So that was initially how the concept around it being set up. And so in June when we launched, it was focused on like a monthly Q&A where I did like maybe a tech Q&A if people had questions around setup or design of Mighty Networks. And July, I got feedback from people that said, Deb, we really want some structure, some steps, like a step-by-step process. And so people were like, is there something you can do to give us some steps of like where to start or what to do? So that was the inception of what now is the Calm Guides. And those were based off of feedback from members of the Find Calm Here community that said, here's what we're looking at, here's what we need help around. And then I created that resource. One of those things was a workflow. Somebody said, Deb, you're asking a lot of questions that I don't necessarily know the answers to. So how could you help me without me having to answer a lot of questions? And I was like, well, that's hard. I don't know. I don't know. I'll have to think about that and get back to you. And what came out of that was what we called a Calm Flow. And there's a step-by-step process. If you go over the Calm Guides, you'll see one of those in the launch area But basically what I did was I created, based on their feedback, a flow, which was to give them a roadmap around what to do for certain areas of the community. Like, should I set it up as paid, private, secret? What do those things mean, and how do I do that? So that was kind of what the inception of the Calm Guides was. And so based on feedback from people, I realized that people wanted not just launch support, but they also wanted support around onboarding and creating a plan for onboarding. They also wanted support around, like, well, there's all these tech tools that I have to integrate. How do I do all of that? And so that's where the tech integration guide came from. So over the past few months, we've been working on, I've been putting some tutorials and information together within those guides, and then we've asked for feedback. So I put out there like a workshop, and then had some of the members come to the workshop. I walked them through the guide, and then they gave me feedback on how I can make it better. So that's kind of what happened in July. In August, we were talking about books. I did a whole bunch of book reviews over the last summer, and some of the people were like, we should have a book club. So we started a book club, and we ended up focusing on one book, particularly The Business of Belonging with David Spinks. There's a book review inside the Find Calm Here community. So if you search for that, you'll find the book review and more information and resources around that book. But we had that, and that was really well. We pulled out a couple chapters and we talked about it. So that was really a fun, interactive participation event that where we could actually, we're learning together through a book together. And then just sharing like how we're going to implement these different frameworks that he was teaching in the book, how we're going to implement those in our own communities. So that's what we did in the summer. In September, I started trying to offer some different variations on the tech Q&A, because what happened was people couldn't show up to the monthly Q&A, and some people wanted tech support, but they wanted it at different times, and other people just wanted to connect with each other and get something done because they were like putting things off. You know, they said, oh, I'll get to my community stuff, but I just haven't had time. So the inception of like the co-working session and a Q&A tried to balance out that need that people were telling me, that they wanted some connection, but they also wanted some accountability around, like, I need to get something done. If you have a co-working session, then I know I'm going to go to that co-working session and have a specific task that's community focused that I will get done during that session. So in September, we started doing some co-workings and the Q&A to kind of have a mix between some, not just like me answering people's questions, but a communication between other people, and then being able to connect with each other and support each other. Because that's really what I want to happen in the Find Calm Here community, is for you all to get the benefit of knowing each other and then having that experience of the different variations of levels that you all have, plus your own personal life experience that you bring to the table whenever you bring yourself into an online space. In October, I kicked off the second iteration of the Mighty Mastermind. So currently, like I said in the beginning, we're finishing up with the Mighty Mastermind. It's a 90-day program that I started with 5 people. Not all of them were community builders, but there's a couple in there that were building either a business or a community. And so we're just wrapping up with them. And I mentioned earlier, Kalisa is going to have her growth seat later in the month. And then November and December, I was trying to figure out about restructuring some of the guides, making them better, improving them, figuring out what worked and what was not working. Like the videos, I was creating these videos, but then it was really exhausting on me. And I wasn't bringing my best self to the videos, I found, and they weren't being viewed by people. So I kind of decided to stop doing like videos. And when I say videos, I just mean me talking about different topics. Instead of that, I'm doing more interactive, like tutorial videos in other areas. So it's more focused on specific things. So that's kind of the past 6 months since Find Calm Here was relaunched in 2021. And when I say relaunched in 2021, my first official launch was in June of 2020. And it was a wellness community. And that's why the name Find Calm Here was initially started, because it was around helping people with their wellness. But what I found was I didn't have a good business model around that. And what Carol helped me with, and Ani and a couple of the other people that were foundation in the very beginning, when I was doing the launch in 2020, it made sense now that I had to combine it with a business for me to be able to have my time be valuable, it needed to connect somehow with a business vision and purpose. So that's why we revamped it in 2021. So that's a lot. I just want to pause there. If anybody had any questions or comments about all the things that I just said. Does anybody have anything? Good? Okay. It's a lot of stuff. I did a lot of...
I did want to say something. I was just
Yeah.
on mute. I just want to say this has been an incredible journey, Deb. I mean, what you have, and I can't wait to see what you're going to present here, because you have accomplished so much and you've learned so much through trial and error that you have paved the path for so many other people. So I just wanted to commend you on that. And I'm excited to hear what you have to say for this next leg of the journey.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you. Okay. So the community mission, I changed this a little bit just to talk about, I was really focused on Mighty Network hosts, and I still am, but there's still elements of community that don't necessarily always relate to Mighty Network's platform. So there's a combination of, there's some tutorials and templates, but it's also community building resources. It's not just about Mighty, because initially my plan was I'm just launching this for Mighty Network hosts, but now I've expanded that to offer more things so that you don't have to be on a Mighty Network to still get a benefit from what I'm doing inside the community. I've also realized that I want to have more time in my own life. And I've spent a lot of time and energy building out the community, and I talk to my clients, and I do really well with like teaching them the best tips and tools around community management, but I haven't actually done those things myself in some ways. So I'm really trying to restructure the community in a way that it allows me, and my consulting business is successfully very busy, which means I need to focus on the higher ticket paying people because that they're paying for my time and attention. So I do have to give a lot of my attention there. And so I want to create these resources. And so these are the 3 different areas that I'm going to continue to build out in 2022. But together we find calm building paid online communities on Mighty Networks inside the Find Calm Here community. Members have access to community building resources, templates, workshops, checklists, and worksheets to help them create a community launch plan, build an onboarding plan, develop community operations, and connect with other Mighty Network hosts for inspiration, support, encouragement. I set aside time to plan and schedule and create content for the community, which allows me for more time. So I'm really working on more strategic planning, forward thinking, so that I'm not kind of like in the month of January and trying to figure out the month of January, for example, trying to think ahead to the next month instead. That's kind of what the theme is. There's 3 different pillars that I see that are really important for Find Calm Here. One is going to be continuing the member education aspect of the Calm guides. So creating those and building out those areas in the Calm guides, which is in the resource section of Find Calm Here. That'll be something that'll be in my strategic plan for this year. And in those guides, members have learned, and what have they done in the past and potential for the future, learned how to structure a Mighty Network, create an onboarding plan, develop a community strategy, and find calm in the process of building, launching, and growing an online community in a fun and easy way together inside the community. So just thinking about we're doing this together versus I have to build this community all by myself, that's not fun, but I have now a Find Calm Here community, which is amazing because there's all these awesome people that can help me in my process. So that's one component. The other component is I want to help you have really successful Mighty Networks, right? How do I do that? I think because of the Find Calm Here community's theme around finding calm, all of you have shared about your community a bit, and I think you have that perspective, or at least want to be in a place where it's not stressful and it's fun and it's not overwhelming to be a community manager, community host, or leading a community. So hopefully a day in the life of you or somebody else in our group here would be, maybe you're looking to build out your Mighty Network, or maybe you're growing your network because you've built it and now you're working on growing it. maybe you've already launched it like I did and then are now restructuring it or trying to figure out like, okay, well now what's next? I've learned a bunch and now I want to change some things. So maybe you're restructuring it. And all of the things that are in FindCom here can help you in those different areas. And then member engagement is going to be super important. FindCom here members are leading co-working sessions. This is what I envisioned for 2022. More members are leading co-working sessions, connecting more in interactive events. I want to have some expert speakers come in, and I want to highlight community members. So maybe having some either growth seats or other shares around, what's working for you in your community, and maybe highlight member highlights or something like that I'd like to have. And then you guys will see polls and questions in here that, might have you pause or think or share something that you've learned and really create a great place for others and yourself to feel motivated and excited about your community journey and feel like you're doing it with other people, because we are inside here. The values of FindCom here that I put together this a while ago. I really believe in a member first experience. This is why you're all here today, because I believe in asking you what is valuable to you as members of the FindCom here community. I want to be intentional about what I create and the time that you and I invest in here. I want you to be a part of it. So that's what the member first experience means. I want to collaborate and co-create content with you, like I talked about with the FindCom here guides. I want to put some frameworks together or some templates. Then I want some feedback so that I can make them really great for you, and so that everybody that sees them will also benefit from that. And connecting with each other. We have talked about earlier, like everybody has so many really cool communities here. And you can really interact with each other and connect with each other. Maybe there's partnerships that align. Maybe there's, somebody, Christy can be a speaker in Missy's community, or Missy can be a speaker in Carol's community or Mary's community. And those kinds of collaborations can happen once you build relationships with people inside the FindCom here community, which is why I really want to drive that connection with you and together in the next year. I also mentioned about business alignment and community alignment. So part of the price increase for FindCom here had to happen because I need to be able to make income and continually grow the membership of FindCom here for financial reasons, because it needs to be a value, which I teach my clients. And I want to make sure that I'm teaching myself and using and putting into place what I'm teaching others about connecting that community and the business alignment. And I want to be calm while I'm doing all of it. I don't want to feel stressed and overwhelmed. So a goal of mine to keep in mind about my values here is to support you and still find calm, as well as doing all of the things that I'm doing and still finding calm with it. So the next year I was looking at the calm guides and I'm trying to figure out how to make them better. And what I think I'm going to do is break them out into mini guides that can be consumed within maybe an hour or two. So keeping it really simple, then making it really easy, so that when you get into a guide, it's not like there's a whole lot of stuff. Because right now, if you go in the guides, there's a lot of really great content, but it is a lot, and I don't want to the whole point is feeling calm. So how can I portray to you that this is still going to allow you to find calm? I'm trying to get more feedback around that. So currently, what is available in the section of the resources section, the Calm Guide to Onboarding, the Mighty Mastermind members helped me with that and giving me feedback. There is recordings of our sessions that we had in that area. So if you wanted to see the videos there, and there's a lot of tools and resources inside the Calm Guide to Onboarding. So that's currently available in the resource section, as well as the Calm Guide to Tech Integration. I think I have 2 sections up in there. I decided to pause on going forward with that any further until I have a new strategy plan around the change up with the mini guides. The new thing I'm thinking about is revamping that launch guide. I did go in and update that. I've learned a lot since 6 months ago, apparently, because I've helped a lot of people launch. I've now worked with over 70 Mighty Network hosts, probably more like almost 100 at this point. We've had 60 interviews on the podcast, so we've done a lot of interviews. So there's a lot of content that I've created in the last year that I want to implement into these guides now, that I want to have a little bit more strategic setting there. So I want to have a mini launch guide that's going to be probably come out in the spring. I'm not sure exactly when. I'm putting like March on it just to give me some kind of a date of expedite, and Kalisa's going to be helping me with a little bit of keeping on tasks with continuing these stages. And then the Calm Guide to Moving a Facebook Group to a Money Network. I've currently been working with a partner on her transition, and we just finished up our partnership. So I'm going to be putting together a roadmap of how we did it, basically a case study of how we did that, and that's going to be coming in the spring or summer. I'm not sure exactly on the time frame. Again, I'm still working on figuring out the clients and how my time's going to pan out for the next quarter. There's other ideas of calm guides that I have in the pipeline. I'm trying to figure out what's more important or how to prioritize my time around these. I was going to try to launch 4 guides a year, but that was quite a bit for me right now. And then if I'm switching to mini guides, it's probably going to be more than that. So I'd like feedback. Well, I'm going into feedback now a little bit here because I know our time's getting short. These are some ideas around calm guides, but I'm welcome to other ideas around what would be helpful for you in your community building journey. So any feedback on that would be good. So this is where my step 4 is, asking for feedback. So the guides, I know some of you have been in the guides. I just wanted to know feedback of whoever has been in the guides, like if they're helpful, how can I make them better? What isn't there that I need to add? If there's things that you're saying, oh, I wish Deb had X, like what is that? You know, just what's most valuable. I'm trying to figure out, like, you know, the schedule of how I'm going to prioritize these. And then I want to know from you, what are you wanting to participate in the Find Calm Here community in 2022? What support do you need that the community could offer? What events, like speakers, would you like to have somebody come that's an expert on launching? Or we could have experts that come in that just talk about specific like onboarding tasks or things like that, or tech things. So those are different options. I'm gonna stop my share and I'm gonna say thank you all for listening to me go rambling on about all of these ideas. And I see something in the chat, so we'll start there. Kathy says, oh, she has to go. You're doing amazing. Well, thank you, Kathy. Okay, so I'm opening up the floor to anyone. Missy.
If nobody has anything pressing, I will say in terms of like what we're looking for, what we need, this is just us personally. Your guide on how to transition groups from Facebook to Mighty Networks. Our experience, my experience, I also am working with a couple of other groups building communities who are not yet on Mighty Network, but I think in the next month or two, we'll have them there. Each of those groups has, each of those organizations has Facebook groups that are probably well over 500, in some cases 1,000 people. A lot of those are not active users, and a lot of people are dropping out of Facebook because they just don't want to be in that realm anymore. So I'm finding it pretty critical to figure out how to get people over, but not bring the whole group over. Like, we just don't want to send 1,000 invites over because some of that's dead wood. So what's the most effective and efficient way to convert people? So that's a guide that's going to be super helpful for us. You know, if I have to wait till summer, I'll wait till summer, but we're really ready to to make something happen with that, because that's where the bulk of the activity for these, not just Lisa's group, but a few other groups I'm working with as well. That's where the bulk of the activity has been, and we're going to get it off of there and move it to Mighty Network. So.
Well, thank you, Misty. I'm so glad you're here, and that's great feedback. In fact, January was when I was going to launch that guide, because I realized how valuable and important, and like everybody is like leaving Facebook in droves, and they want to know how to do it, and they don't know. And so I know that's a big focus for people, which is why I really prioritized that in the end of last year and worked with this partner. But I want to think through it a little bit, and I've got to focus on my client. Just personally speaking, I need to make sure I'm giving my clients and setting the stage for me to be able to continue with revenue. And that's part of my focus right now. And so the community is going to be, like I said, in stages. So it might be the spring. It might even be sooner than that. These are just kind of ballparks. I didn't want to put myself in a corner and say, I'm going to have it by February 1st. And then like I get to like, you know, January 31st and I'm like, I haven't not done one thing and because of client work, and now I feel like overwhelmed, and that's not helping me find calm. So giving me that flexibility is allowing myself a little bit of calm. But I hear you.
I wonder if it would be possible or interesting, even as like a teaser, you know, so while people are waiting, to do either like a session sort of like this, like with that client you were working with, even just to hit like some of the highlights of here's what we noticed as we were doing that, or a co-working session where
Guess what? That is going to happen because I just recorded an interview with that client whose name is Jackie, who is in the Find Calm Here community. So if you wanted to talk with Jackie, she is in the Find Calm Here community. She just did a podcast interview with me where we literally walked through everything that we did together. That it talks exactly about what you're asking about. It's like a preview of what we did. And there are some other resources already inside Find Calm Here that I can like put together for you, like links, and maybe I'll create, that'll be something I can put a post together with resources.
Okay. Because I have found your other guides tremendously helpful. There really are great resources, just such great tools to have. So
cool. Thank you, Missy. Mary asked about sharing my screen, so I can do that. Carol, do you have a...
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, are you doing transcripts of your podcasts?
No. Currently, Kalisa is here. She is our podcast producer, and she is doing the editing. And then we're doing like a show notes, like a mini like recap in the show notes, but I don't have an actual transcript just because it costs money, and I don't read transcripts. I don't know if people do. Do you feel like it's valuable with your podcast?
Yes, I do. And also there's a company called ElasticPod that I'm looking at that has a search engine where they will list all of your transcripts basically, and people can search through their database and find information on your podcast and information they might be specifically looking for within a particular episode. But also it would give you an opportunity to identify and repurpose content and highlight content, because you get more detail with those transcripts that you could use, because you mentioned that you wanted to repurpose some of your content. Yeah. I think that would be an excellent way. And ElasticPod, it's not that expensive. And I would think that, I don't know, are you doing a week? You're doing 2 a month?
Yeah.
I think you could do the free version, because I think it's up to like 2 hours a month. And what you could do is purchase you can go month to month, and you can purchase the next level up. I think it's like $15 or something, and get a number of all of the transcripts of the ones that you've already done. So you have those. Okay. It wouldn't be very costly, but you could leverage that, the information that's in that content, because that's golden. What the discussions that you've had with the 50 or 60 people that you have interviewed. Right. I was going to say that I love the 3 pillars: education, transformation, engagement. That really, those and your values really help you to hone in on and focus on what's important. And I love the mini guides. I think you're right, there is an awful lot of information. I started, I guess, a couple of weeks ago, just going back through and looking at your guides. And I think that if you were to condense those and make them really, really, really specific, hone in on the real highlights, so that people can get through them more quickly, and just, a high impact. I think that's, and just more digestible. I think that would be excellent. So those are really kind of my observations up to this point.
Beautiful. Thank you. I just worked yesterday on collecting together podcast episodes that I've recorded over the last year and a half by topic, because somebody had asked me about like, where do I start or how do I find, do you have a podcast on community content or community engagement? So I've been working on building out this list. This post will be live in the Find Calm Your Community in a couple days. So keep an eye out for that post. So I wanted to note that for you, because that'll be something that you'll be able to see. And I'm going to be working on implementing those podcasts then in the guide. So like it'll be a part of the content then. So I will have in the resources area or within the guide in some part, it'll be like, listen to this episode because it talks specifically about this thing. So that's, now I'm starting to like, now that I've got, a year-ish worth of content that I've built up with the podcast, you're right. Now I can really start picking out where, not all of those podcast episodes, especially in the beginning, are the greatest. So I wouldn't recommend listening to every podcast episode because they're not all going to be winners in the beginning, because I was still learning what I was doing. I was still figuring out what I was doing in the beginning, just to be honest. And I was figuring out what the heck podcasting is and how to do it. So, but you're saying now I've got some really great episodes with some content that's really valuable. So that is a plan for me for the next year to implement that. So great suggestions, Carol. Thank you.
Well, there's one other thing too. I was going to point you to an interview that Alex in the Pod Pros community. I think you're familiar with that community. It used to be the Pod Match community.
Yep, I'm in there, and I'm talking to Alex about getting on the Find Calm Here podcast. And I'm starting to integrate. Khalees is going to be starting to help me with a little bit more with the Pod Match platform to get guests, because I'm going to start to really work on getting really high quality guests on the podcast so that we can have really great content created and then will be implemented. Mm-hmm.
Well, I was going to mention to you that there's a great interview in there that he did of someone. I learned a ton about doing the proper research on your guests and really creating differentiation with your guests. So I'll go back and I'll find that and point you to that. So I'll send that info to you.
Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Deb, I think again, as always, it's the amount of food you provide us always leaves me like, I want more and I just can't fit it in. So thank you for that. I'm wondering about, and to the group around this, you mentioned a couple of times, and I've lived this experience as well. How do we better balance the day job, right? So you're talking about your consulting clients, that's an issue for me. I talk about that. I started to launch my community in the pandemic, and then very gratefully, all my business came back, and so then it was like, there's a community now, but I have all these clients that I need to work with and serve. And even though I shifted my model, it's still what I call the day job. So I'm wondering how we can engage better with each other so that we're not as dependent on you, Deb, as the host, to keep providing us so much stuff. Like, maybe how do we share tips with each other around how we manage the balance of running our community, but, whatever the other is for us or the others. And maybe some other folks have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, I will say that is a hope.
Yeah,
and I do have some people. Christy, I think, was one of the people who posted some things. Go ahead. Was that Christy?
Yeah.
I was just going to say that seems to be a quintessential problem for a lot of hosts. Challenge to overcome is not always being the one creating content and answering questions and creating, like, trying to get the engagement going. It's like I think we all have that challenge, is like, well, a lot of us have that challenge of getting other people to like ask questions or get the conversation going, is what it seems like. So that was just my thought. I totally agree with you, Mary. I think that's
Yeah, and that's a focus for me for this year. Is what, part of it, Kalisa's going to be in there more and interacting more on my behalf, basically. But there's, you put in here, this is good stuff. You want feedback around, and there's people that can give more feedback to you that they've done stuff, so she had asked about stages, so that could be something. Maybe you don't use stages, but maybe use identities or professions, so you can share your feedback on that for people that are posting already in here, like I need support around different things. And that's really helpful. And it'll be helpful to you, and you'll feel like you're sharing with each other and you're helping each other. And then when you have something that you need help on and you post something, you're more likely, right, to get feedback from people because you've given some feedback to, you said, oh, here's how I did it. If you need anything else, let me know. And then as soon as that person gets that message, they'll be like, oh my gosh, thank you so much, Christy, for being so kind and helping me. Is there anything I can help you with? I think that building those relationships are really, and that's why Ani and Carol are here, because they built those relationships with each other and with me over the time that we've worked together. So, and a lot of people are new in here. So it's like a starting again of building those relationships inside FindCalm here. But good points.
Yeah, and I think understanding that people are allowed to post, it takes a little while to get to know a community, right? So it takes a little while, like, because I'm brand new, like, okay, do other people aside from Deb post, or do we wait for Deb to post and then we respond to that? Like, is that appropriate for me to say, oh, I just found this really cool article about whatever, maybe people are interested? Well, I don't know, because I haven't been here long enough to know if that's a thing. I know in some of the communities that I've worked with, I've actually worked with certain people to become like the experts on things. So if I feel like we're needing a discussion around, tracking tools or whatever, I will say, like, so-and-so, can you be our tracking expert? And I really want to get this discussion going. Will you post something about whatever? So I actually ask other people to post things to get discussions going. It's a little bit manipulated, right? But once that starts to happen, then people are like, oh, I'm allowed to post too. So now I'm going to post my question or whatever. Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Missy, and also what you said, Deb, because I do find that if I answer too soon, then other people tend to not answer, and, to begin to call out, if you will, who we know, because we know our members, different people with expertise. And I think for me, that's a big aha as well, that in honoring the host, they don't want to step on our toes, right? So, so the more we can make it comfortable and safe for them, the more they'll probably begin to engage with each other.
Right.
Yeah.
And I try to tag, I have these different posts that are a welcome post and FAQ post that I try to tag members in. So I have 3 different ways to onboard, or like different pieces of content, I should say. In our about section is where you'd find the welcome things that I have set up, and part of that is the welcome to the FindCalm here, and then our values post that shares about like the mission and the purpose of FindCalm here, which I talked a little bit about, and then questions for people. So like maybe I just need to prioritize more of like, and I need to update this a bit, but just saying like, it's okay, please post, like please ask the question, like don't be afraid. And so I think when we assume people are like, people know, like of course they could post, they know they can post, I'm asking them to post in the like literal posts. I'm saying share your comment below, but yet still it's one of those things where like you have to have the click here button. Like I was talking to a client and I said, I have to put click here because not everybody knows that if it's hyperlinked, it means it goes somewhere else. So I say click here and I hyperlink it so they know. And even though that to me is a really basic thing because I've been doing, websites and internet stuff for so long, but there's still other people that are not in the know or do not understand that if they click, it'll take them somewhere, unless I say click here to go here. Yeah. So it's like that thing. And I teach this, I teach this to my clients all the time, but now I really have to put it into implementation in my own community. And so I kind of did the thing that I don't recommend people to do is do everything all at the same time, which is what I did in the beginning. So, which is why I recommend not to do it, because I started a business, I launched a community, and I launched a podcast all within 6 months. And that's a lot of stuff. So, there's some message in the chat. Okay, so just great points. This is what the community is all about. And you guys are awesome already. You're going to make superstars in my community. Super excited. Did anybody have, we're wrapping up, did anybody have any other thoughts, feedback, you can, by the way, in our feed in the community, you can also post anything that you'd like. I am going to post the recording up with the PDF of this slide deck that I just shared. And so you can certainly, if you think about things later, post it there. Go ahead. I think Christy, did you have something else? Oh, connection unstable.
Yeah, I'll try this. I don't know how stable my connection is, but I wanted to say something about marketing. I think that is like an area that I'm not real familiar with.
Yep. We did have a marketing expert come in last year, and so I think I'll bring another.
Did I cut out?
You just said about marketing. I heard that. Did you say something else besides marketing?
Yeah. So like, here's an example. Just needing help with that. Yeah, so support around marketing templates, tools, like how do I promote my community on social media? How do I tell people or invite them to it in the first place? There's a lot of that in the launch guide. And so what I was thinking about is splitting up that launch guide and maybe having a specific guide for marketing, which I was planning to do last year, and then other things happened. So that's a good point to like revisit about a marketing guide or some kind of tutorial that gives some resources around how to market your community. So I'll put that on my notes. Thank you. Cool. All right. We are at time. So I appreciate everybody showing up. We've got to do some celebrations. Everybody got to meet each other a little bit, connect on here. People that are watching the recording will also get to know you. So don't be surprised if somebody watches the recording and says, oh my gosh, Missy, you and I should chat because it sounds like we have some things in common. Hopefully that does happen. That would be amazing. Otherwise, we are going to have another event scheduled on the 14th, which is a week from today. And that is specifically for you to connect with each other. So that's the whole point of what I want to do. We can talk more about like what events are going to happen in the community, what strategically we're going to do. I'm going to have Kalisa and Jessica, who's not here. They had offered to host co-working sessions. So I'm going to be connecting with those two people around hosting co-working so that we'll have that start going in probably starting in February. I wanted to give January just kind of a let's take some time to like relax after the holidays, because there's a lot of stuff going on out in the world in January for people. So, and you might have your own launch. And so that's why I kind of paused in January to reassess of what FindCom here is going to be. And then like we'll start up with maybe some events and like the co-working and other things in February. So that's what we're planning on as far as that goes. Again, I had challenges with events and with participation, so I'm probably going to start having like a minimum RSVP situation for events where I need at least 5 people to RSVP for us to have the event, so that the speaker, if we have a professional speaker, so that they have a good audience and people that are going to show up and ask questions so it can be interactive. And then there's other, like we'll talk about other events going forward that you might want to have that either you could lead or that I'll lead, and that we can connect deeper. So thank you all for your feedback. I will post a recording of this later so that anybody else wants to see it in our community, they'll be able to see it and you can comment there. Until the next time we meet next week, I hope you're finding calm, and I will talk with you later. I am ending the recording now.